Hi, and good afternoon, and welcome to episode 8 of Sundown Rising. If you've been following this, you know who I am, so there's no need for reintroductions at this point. So we're just pretty much going to jump into the book where we left off. We have one more episode after this, which will be aired next Tuesday at the same time, 2 o'clock. Um, and I guess that's it. So we'll just get to the story and see where we are and where we're going. I fed voraciously that night. My last of 4 victims was a security guard isolated in a small guard shack outside an apartment complex. As I finished with him, I turned and she was standing there. Her long brown tresses dancing lightly in the night breeze brought back a memory long buried. For the briefest of moments, I saw in her features and mannerisms my former human wife, Ronnie. But the moment faded, and I saw only another nocturnal killing machine. Feeling a bit weak lately? She asked, sarcastically. This is your fourth tonight. A bit piggish, isn't it? She laughed. What is it exactly that you want from me? Why are you so fascinated by me? You present a conundrum. 2 sides of a coin, she replied matter of factly. A conflict? What kind of conundrum? A conflict between my desire and need. Again, she stood, hands in her hip pockets, kicking lightly at the cinders of the driveway. The action was so familiar. I had seen it before, and it wasn't she I was vaguely remembering. It was someone else that I had known. What desire and what need? Can you be more specific? I folded my arms across my chest. I don't think this is the time or place for lengthy discussion. Do you? I cocked my head quickly over my shoulder, indicating the corpse I'd left slumped on the floor of the guard shack. Perhaps not, she giggled. It was a little girl giggle, but it was far from a human sound. The cemetery, she added, and vanished. Some of the tales and legends are true. We can transmute, but it is a costly expenditure of energy. But because I was oversatiated with my 4 victims, I had the energy to spare. Pulling all my will together, I collapsed my cells and reformed them. It was a painful process. In human terms, it would feel much like being inside a trash compactor. I could feel my blood vessels burst and reform, my organs explode and reshape themselves. The agony was horrific, but at last I was a bat and could move through the night effortlessly and swiftly. I arrived at the cemetery a full 10 minutes before she did. When she got there, I could see the surprise that briefly flashed across her face before she regained her composure. My early arrival had had the effect I wanted. She was now the one questioning the amount of my strength. I had reformed myself before she arrived, leaving her to wonder how I'd accomplished it. Fortunately, the transmutation in that direction was only half as painful. When completed, it takes a few minutes to restore the human, for lack of a better term, sensations. The nerves need to readjust. I had had just enough time, marginally, before she arrived. Had I been moments later in regaining those senses, she would have had me at a great disadvantage. This was an ability that is infrequently used among us for those reasons. As she stood in front of me, I could see in her mind the ambivalence she was feeling. She had no idea how I'd beaten her here, and although she desperately wanted to find out, she was afraid to display her weakness, her lack of understanding, without having to be told. I smiled to myself. So, I said, looking her directly in the eyes, what seems to be your dilemma, and how does it involve me? Her face was strained. She was battling with herself, and I could feel it sapping her strength. I could sense the discord within her. She wanted 2 things at the same time, and they were diametrically opposed. I need something from you, she said. Her voice was a dry monotone. I believe you're the only one who can help me, but I loathe having to ask you. You need something from me? I narrowed my gaze and probed more deeply into her mind. She was beginning to lose control. I was getting deeper and deeper. Her ambivalence was eroding her mental barricade. Straining, I pushed past it and saw what she was, who she was, and how she'd been made. I also saw the reason for her struggle. She wanted me dead, but needed my strengths and abilities. I took a step back. The clarity of her thoughts, of her creation and more, stunned me. I was not prepared for it at all. There was no other. There was she that she had spoke of. The other who had created her had been me. The mental blow drained me and I lost contact with her mind. But her knowledge was already mine. Instantly, she knew what had happened. That knowledge freed her, and she closed off her mind to me. Her strength had returned as she was no longer divided. For the longest time, she just stood there looking at me, probing into my mind. It was now I who was vulnerable, and she wasted no time taking advantage of it. Yet it turned out that my concern was unjustified. It was not secrets she sought. She gave rather than took. She made sure I felt the full impact of what I had gained from her mind. She gave me clear images. For beings that are emotionally dead, as we are, I was struck, horrified. The image of my long dead wife, Ronnie, swam in my mind. She suffered greatly. Her state of decay was beyond comprehension, and the pain she felt of it was sheer agony. The girl before me was my daughter. When my wife had died 47 years ago, I had not known that she was pregnant. The girl standing before me, my daughter, developed in the womb of a dead human, her vampire half struggling to survive, to escape. It had taken her years to develop enough to break out of her confines, out of my wife's grave. To survive, she had managed to revive my dead wife, whom she'd fed upon until she could escape. The explanation of how she accomplished that would have to wait for another time. Feeding only enough to continue to grow, she waited until her time arrived. But for Ronnie, it was torture. She was never meant to be one of the undead. The revival of a corpse only breeds an animated corpse. But for the corpse, it is hell. They continue to decompose, and the undead life they've been given allows them to feel their decomposition. Through my daughter's mind, I saw my wife as she existed now, horribly mutilated, rotten flesh peeling from her bones, her organs liquefying with decay, and I could hear her constant screams of agony. "What have you done?" I yelled, grabbing my daughter by the shoulders. "What have you done?" She twisted away from me. "What I had to do to survive. We all survive." She locked her eyes on mine. "You have the power to help her. I know you do. I am not strong enough, but you could give her what we have. I know it." "No," I shouted. "No. She's been embalmed. I cannot help her." "You must," she screamed. "You must try. I know. I've always known, even while I was living inside the grave. You can help her. You can restore her." "To what? Mortal? It's beyond that. Vampire? Impossible now. To what?" She took a step back, her demeanor calming. "You have not even asked my name. Do you want to know?" I was stunned. I couldn't get the image of her mother out of my mind, a woman locked in a below ground mausoleum so that her cries of anguish could not be heard by humans. And my daughter seemed concerned with her name. My name, the one that I've chosen, as there was no one to name me when I was born, is Nightling. I am your progeny. I am your legacy. You've done nothing for me. I've done for myself. Now it is time for you to ante up. You must help my mother. You must help your wife. We cannot leave her as she is, and I haven't the power to change it. But you do. I know it. I can feel it. I drew a deep sigh, and for the first time in a long time, I felt. I felt a profound sadness. Perhaps it was knowing that my wife was alive, awake. I didn't know what to call it, but I could feel again human feelings, pity, and horror. I don't know what we can do. I honestly don't know what we can do, except I trailed off. for I knew she knew what I was going to propose, and I wasn't even sure we could do that. Excuse me. You can't kill her, she screamed. I won't allow it. You must save her. You must make her one of us. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed me, lifting me into the air. As easily as if I had been a child's toy, she threw me across the cemetery yard. I landed hard against a headstone. I had been unprepared for her attack. Do you hear me? She bellowed, appearing in front of me. You must help her. You must at least try. You owe her. You owe me. You're my father, and I need your abilities and experience. No human could hear what we heard when we arrived at the mausoleum. The piercing screams and wailing that punched through to our immortal ears were chilling, even to us. Nightling looked at me. It must have been the recollection of, with my former self, my daylight self, but I was feeling Ronnie's anguish. Immediately, Nightling snatched me up by the shoulders and shook me. Don't go there. I need you as you are. Do not let yourself feel. You must be 100% immortal to do this. I shook my head. I can't do that. We were connected. I can feel for her. For the longest time, I could feel nothing, but I can feel for her. Stop it. Stop it right now. You are an immortal, a creature of the night, a vampire. You can no longer walk in daylight, and you are no longer any part human. You must be what you are. You must. I drew myself up. She was right. If I had any chance of doing anything, I would need all the powers that the immortality of darkness have given me. Yet, I still did not know what I could do. Are you ready? Nightland asked. There's a small crack in the back. We can get in through there. Wait, I said, locking my fingers around her upper arm. I need to think about what I'm going to do first. It won't be as easy as converting a human. She's already dead and pumped full of embalming fluid. No, said Nightling. She's mostly drained. That's why she's decomposing so quickly. I drained it off her, little by little, as I was growing. It made me sick at first, but I learned to deal with it. Mother is almost completely free of that horrid stuff. I turned and leaned my back against the mausoleum, the cries and moans still issuing forth. What did I know? What could I possibly do to reverse such a horrid thing? And as if the problem itself weren't enough, the sun would rise soon. We had very little time. You say that you've removed most of the embalming fluid. Yes, it was gross, but I did it. That's how I was able to reanimate her. I'd exchange a little of my blood for a little of hers each day. That was another reason it took me so long to develop. My human side was constantly at war with the paraformaldehyde, and my psyche was split. But in the end, I succeeded. I closed my eyes. Someplace deep inside of me, someplace where instinct and the wisdom of our kind resides, it could feel an answer. I had to reach down further to find it. I concentrated, letting time and place slip from my consciousness. I was close, but not close enough when I felt Nightling shaking me violently. I tried to push her away. I tried to maintain my concentration, but she kept shaking me. Giving in at last, I said, What? What is it? I was almost there. Look, look, she cried, pointing to the horizon. We're out of time for tonight. You must return home, now. The sun is coming, and I can't afford to lose you. Fly, transmute and fly. You have only minutes. It's taken me almost an hour to get through to you. Fly. She'd figured out my trick, but I had no time to acknowledge that. I returned to my casket seconds before I would have perished. The sun had crested just as I had reformed. It was a narrow escape. And we're going to stop there, and we will finish this up next Tuesday. We'll come to the end. And after that, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have absolutely no idea what's going to go or what I'm going to do after this, but I'll figure it out. Could be fun. Who knows? At any rate, I thank you for joining me. If you liked it, thumbs up. Didn't, thumbs down. That's good. Subscribe. Hit the bell for your notifications. And you can check out my, I can't work this thing. There you go. It's a bad hand. Um, Check out my notifications in the description below. You'll find my books and link to my website if you want to look at that. Until then, I guess I will see you on Tuesday at the same time, same station. Take care of yourselves and keep a chill in your spine. Bye now.